Good morning, listeners and viewers and the world.
Good morning, Ammar.
Good morning, Jalf. Um, Gosh, it's nice to be sat next to you.
Yeah, it makes a what's the word? It makes a nice difference, doesn't it?
It does. Touch you, feel you. That probably doesn't really. Anyway, delighted to be here for our weekly show here on Spice FM. You're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
live on our weekly radio show right here on Spice FM.
Each week, I try and bring some views, news, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we'll be talking shop quite literally, not just corner shops. Whether you're looking to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. And it's, what's going on in the world, Jeff?
Well, I think the whole world is in, the people that matter in the world, Ammar, they're all in Davos, aren't they? Or they were in Davos over the last few days. And interestingly, over the years, I used to hear lots of amazing stories from chefs because whilst you have the world's biggest kind of political figures, economists and everyone who's who from, apparently David Beckham was there as well, they all go over to Davos, but the world's best chefs make their way to Davos as well to cater for all of the big boys, the elites. And I know that our mentor chef, Alfred Prasad, has been there on a number of years. And honestly, the kind of banqueting and the food that they do over there is just on the next level. I think we started the year, remember, we said, yeah, let's hope it's a year where there's going to be peace and hopefully the Orange Man is going to kind of, did he win? No, he didn't, did he? Didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. He won the FIFA Peace Prize. We thought that he's going to go after peace, and instead it's been quite the reverse. And each week there seems to be a focus on a new country. So first week it was Venezuela. And then it was all talks about everything's going to be kicking off in Iran. There was,
Well, they've still got a significant presence in Iran and around Iran.
Yeah.
In that space, as in they've mobilized quite a lot of.
Well, yeah, they've got all of their kind of
fleets and carriers
all around in those waters.
Yeah.
And now, obviously, they've just said that, we're just going to take over Greenland and we're going to give you like X amount of money, 100 grand per person, and about 500 or 600 billion squid. Well, that's quite easily sorted because you just give them a bit of oil that you've taken from Venezuela and you pay the 500 million from there. It's good business, isn't it? It's brilliant. But it's just amazing how, if you ever look at the map, Ammar, where Greenland is, Greenland is just above us is Iceland, and to the north of that is Greenland, and Greenland is massive. So, I mean, that if you think about it, imagine if Trump does the deal with Putin and they go 50-50 on Greenland. Imagine that would be hilarious. Well, because they would have a presence right. Look at the size of it and look where it is. It's absolutely unbelievable that we're just taking Greenland, and the poor Danes, what can they do about it, Ammar? Nothing.
And the natural resources in Greenland. If you look at Greenland, it's probably the same size as Canada and North America, isn't it?
It's huge. Well, all of a sudden, you can just take that land. And what's happened to the Europeans and NATO? I thought that you were there to protect, because Denmark's a part of NATO and Greenland's a part of Danish territory. And someone's just unwillingly just rocking up and saying that we're taking you in this entire piece of land, which is massive, and no one can do anything about it. You're actually rolling out the red carpet.
Well, it's really interesting, right? Because I mean, we don't know what we don't know, but what is interesting, and naturally, all of these geopolitical events have an impact on business. So hence our show being about business and world affairs and all of that. But it was really interesting to see where we were just last week, right? And if you recall, Jalf, the first show that we done literally 2 weeks ago. So this is the third show in 2026. The first show that we done 3 weeks ago to the day, we talked about the biggest challenge this year is uncertainty, right? And that is one of the biggest concerns generally, is the level of uncertainty. And it is just extraordinary that we're not just talking about sort of one major event. So, where the president, regardless of who or what or where, I mean, was there not arguments in America about alleged election fraud? Was there not a, Donald Trump didn't get elected the last time
in 2020?
Yeah, because of
election fraud. Yeah.
Right? So these issues, allegations, suggestions, because we don't, have been applied to the United States of America itself, right? To then say, well, sorry, that president who's elected and is in power shouldn't be there. Seems incredibly not just hypocritical, it's outrageous, it sounds like, on the scheme of things. So all of a sudden, a sitting president is abducted and allegedly brought to justice. And then you'd ask that same question, well, why isn't that happening through the international criminal courts on people who have been alleged?
Well,
anyway, that's it. Let's not go there. But it's
really related. It's not. I think ultimately, Ammar, the fact is, unfortunately, there is great governance that's been kind of, a lot of people over the years must have worked so hard to have international governance and EU and international law on A, B, C, and D. Now, the framework is there, but the problem is, if someone as big as America, they choose not to follow that framework, like, who's going to do anything about it? And if they become very aggressive and they say that, well, hey, we're going to do it, and if you don't listen, we're going to nuke you, then you don't really have much. I mean, what's little Denmark going to do to mighty America? Nothing much. So I think once international law isn't followed, then can you then not follow international law but expect others to follow it? Isn't that hypocritical and double standard?
Setting standards, aren't you? Well, and actually, the thing that you can now do is it sets a precedent. So a precedent is what it says. And that precedent is a legal term, which in essence means that anybody who does anything thereafter can rely on it, right? So there was a judgment last week which featured Durham and Darlington on an employment tribunal. It was to do with getting changed in a room and whatever else. Whilst employment tribunals are explicit to that case, you can then look at that law as well. And there's a whole range of other laws that you can utilize and explore based on that. The sad thing about the current state of affairs is quite simply, we're living in an era where, all of a sudden, the world's powerfulest man isn't, as is being suggested, isn't just focused on making America great again. He's actually now focused on making America greater again. So he's taken over as much as he can. From the Middle East, where this board's been appointed to look after Gaza, this peace board, which is a very curious appointment, but ultimately it's his appointment. He's made those appointments. And it's like, were those appointments his to make? Anyway, that's happened. And ultimately, everyone will be reporting back to him, as opposed to the people of Palestine. Right? Then we've seen what's going on in Venezuela, and that sounds incredulous that would happen. And everyone else just sort of sat back.
Nothing said anyway.
Right. And then same thing in Greenland. Now, what is really curious about the Greenland thing is everyone came together, right? So everyone was vocal saying, this is wrong. You cannot take this by power. You cannot do this, type of thing. He then, including Mark Rutte, the representative for Denmark and whatever else, they then come out of a meeting and they're like, yeah, we've agreed.
Yeah.
Right. And the people in Greenland are sat there going, well, how can you agree without us? All of a sudden, it's becoming an incredibly interesting time. Now, the fastest growing companies are defense, and wars are just good for economies, as they are suggested. They're not good for people because they just allow people to blow things up. So you need to make those things that you blow things up with. You then need to make, you need to recruit people. So state spending gives people jobs and whatever else. Those people are in jobs and the supply chains are in jobs. And then when you've blown up whatever you've blown up, well, someone needs to go and rebuild it, right? So what better way than to create these activities, these opportunities all over the world?
It's so horrible. It's such a terrible, immoral pathway to business, and I just can't comprehend how that's even became a thing over the years, and how have human beings allowed that to be the case. It's just terrible. So bad.
It is so bad and so sad is what it is. Anyway.
So macroeconomic wise and world politics.
So what does that mean? Happening? What does that mean then, Jalf? How does that translate into actual?
I think the bigger question from a European perspective, there seems to be a big distancing of America and Europe, and that will have its implications on us. I mean, if there's these constant threats of tariffs and A, B, C, and D, I think they're obviously going to have a massive impact on our economy. But apparently, Macron and Keir Starmer have turned around and said that, oh, well, hold on, China, we need you to invest in Europe, and apparently Keir Starmer's on his way to China, isn't he, to try and beg for some business. And so, obviously, are they? We've always been very close to America. Is there some kind of a distance now between America and Europe? And because they're constantly bashing the EU, the Americans, Elon Musk is like very, very vocal on X about Europe. So if that is the case, are we going to see a shift where we're going to be leaning more towards China? Either way, I think there needs to be a point where our prime minister is putting Britain first and putting the people first, and doing deals with companies that's going to have, yes, they want to make money, but then we're going to benefit from those deals. So I think, I'm not sure really where the country stands with everything that's happening. And Donald Trump has obviously been very, I mean, our government probably can't come out and say it, but they probably internally they absolutely must be hating Donald Trump.
What can they do? Yeah. What can they do?
I think it just causes lots of uncertainty in the market, doesn't it? All of this stuff, and then we impact because it creates uncertainty within minds of the public, and then they do they spend, do they not spend, how what do they do, and that's directly impacts on business. So let's hope that after Greenland, is it Canada next? And
Well, this is the thing, as in I mean, it's a very scary place now, isn't it? Because technically, and this isn't our language, because we're always mindful of languages, you've got this bully,
mm,
haven't you?
well, no one can do anything about it. But America's PR seems to still be intact because America is doing all of these things, right?
Mm.
But is anyone saying, "Oh, we hate America"? The PR is so strong. So what they've done to Venezuela, I mean, imagine that the Russians did that to Zelensky.
It's crazy.
What would be like? There would be uproar in every single newspaper, wouldn't there? So isn't that a bit? So they've got massive control of the minds of kind of people. I guess America's done so much. They have so much influence in our everyday lives, whether it be the movies that we watch or you know the clothes that we wear, the food that we eat, McDonaldization of society, and all of those things that they still have a very, very positive spin. Whilst Russia, poor Russians, they're banned from like all international sports, from the FIFA World Cup, the Champions League, to everything. And what have they actually done? Yeah, you've gone into war with Ukraine, but there's always been wars, as you've just said. How come all of those countries haven't been banned from everything that you can imagine? So their spin is absolutely brilliant. So people that aren't looking at, I don't hear in the public people hating over America. So I think globally there are issues which you need to be mindful of, but we hope that the leaders must realize now that they want to do like all of the deals with America and not with Russia, well, and China. I think you need to have a rethink, because if you can still get cheaper energy from Russia and cheap manufacturing goods from China, then you really need those alliances, because they're on our doorsteps, well, not on our doorsteps, but they're partners that we need to have really good relationships with. And if America's going to all turn around, and I bet you the Chinese wouldn't turn around and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to put 100% tariff," just like gung ho, because they're very kind of calculated people, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, this is all sort of very challenging. Let's have a look at what the actual news says as well. So part of the issue is the volatility, isn't it? As in the level of uncertainty. Once again, that's the critical point here, isn't it? But these are the headlines. Have a read of them. Read them out, Jeff. Trump's new
tariff threats. Where am I reading from here?
That bit there, yeah.
Trump's new tariff threat risks chaos for companies and higher inflation in the US. President Donald Trump has escalated trade tensions by announcing new tariffs on European exports to the US, with a 10% levy on goods from the UK, Denmark, and other European countries from February the 1st, and a threat to raise this to 25% from June the 1st unless talks progress on the US purchasing Greenland.
Now, that was the original point, right?
Yeah.
So clearly this news has been superseded. But in essence, the threats are still there, right? Because then Donald Trump said, "I'm not going to use force, and I'm not going to introduce these tariffs, but I might do," is what he said.
Yeah.
Right?
And then the impact on that is that uncertainty, isn't it?
It's that uncertainty, right? So if someone could just all of a sudden go, it's going to be 10% on the 1st of February, and then it's going to go 25% on the 1st of June. So our biggest exports from the UK to the US are cars and pharmaceuticals. Cars.
Really?
Yeah, we export.
Which cars?
Loads of cars.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we don't make any cars.
We make loads of cars.
Well, which brands do we own?
Who's we? I don't know.
Like,
Sure,
like the country, man. What brands do we own? Like British companies, what brands do
well,
we own?
not necessarily
It's
British.
not, we don't have like Rover anymore, you know. Rover's gone.
We have Range Rover. We have Land Rover.
Range, they own by the
Jaguar.
Indians.
Okay, they make the cars here.
Okay.
Jaguar Land Rover are the biggest. Can't even say the word. Are the biggest. You know, is what this is. Is so let's just have a look at like what are the top three exports to the USA. And basically, as I understand it, the biggest concern is machinery, mechanical equipment. This includes things like industrial machinery, turbines, engines, and related parts. It consistently leads UK goods exports by value into the US market. Vehicles, high value British cars and other automated products are a major export category into the US. Pharmaceuticals. Let's just, as Jeff has asked, what cars are exported? Because like the mechanical and machinery is just a very, there's a variety of things. So Jaguar Land Rover vehicles. This includes premium SUVs and cars like Range Rover Sport, Defender, and various Jaguar saloons and SUVs. JLR is the single largest UK exporter to the US market. Did you know that? No. And then Mini, the iconic British-built Mini hatchbacks and variants, Rolls-Royce, ultra premium, Aston Martin, Bentley and McLaren. So all of these, right? And the US is a major market. In 2024, to the United States, we're worth around 10 billion. So 10 billion pounds, which is not an insignificant amount, right? So all of a sudden, someone's got to find another £1 billion.
Yeah, 10%. My God,
right?
It's crazy, isn't it?
Right, and in June you're going to have to find 2.5 billion. Imagine what that does to that supply chain. Now, naturally, you would have to pass that on to the consumer. You'd like to think the consumer will buy it, but then all of a sudden, the consumer is probably thinking, I like that car, but I don't think I want to pay another £10,000 or $25,000 for it, do I? I'm already paying like $200,000-300,000.
And I don't think it would be just a 10% increase on their end.
No. So and then as I say, pharmaceuticals are huge. Category, vaccines, blood products, antisera, biologics, medicaments, packaged for retail sale, other pharmaceutical goods. In 2024, pharmaceutical exports to the United States were worth 6.6 billion, making them one of the top UK goods sent to the USA. Ocean are made in the north, and actually the Northeast has a dedicated pharmaceutical alliance. Is what it is. So the Northeast Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Cluster exports on average 80% of the products it makes, and about 40, so half of them, go to the United States. Wow. And the Northeast has a huge pharmaceutical manufacturing, particularly in Northumberland, Cramlington, and places like that, which is, it's highly exportable. So imagine the impact then that.
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, there needs to be governance where there's stability in the markets, but I just can't see it happening anymore because, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, America is very, very powerful and they've got a very, very strong leader who seems to be really decisive. There's
this term that obviously we don't know, but there is this term that they use, which is called TACO.
Right.
and um, I think it allegedly, and we don't know this, but I think it stands for Trump again, chickens out.
Okay.
So if you think about, let's just have a look, just to be clear, because it's not our term. Yeah, I think it's a bit rude, if you ask me. But I'm sure there's people
Trump again,
ruder.
chickens out.
I'm sure there's. What does taco mean relating to Trump? This is all live. You can tell us, is what it is. In the current financial commentary, Trump always chickens out, is what it stands for.
Right.
It's used to describe a pattern of behavior where Trump makes bold, aggressive threats or announcements, then retreats or softens them when faced with economic, political, or market consequences.
Yeah, very interesting. Big things happening in the geopolitical world, which does impact on all of us. I think, interestingly, Ammar, just
pick up on that point then, Jalf, because
so
this is there's some positives, isn't
I was
it?
just about to say, so obviously you've got a lot of uncertainty in the world at this moment. During the periods of uncertainty, gold and silver has hit record highs. Tariff threat rattles markets. Gold and silver hits highs after Donald Trump threatened new tariffs. European countries opposing his proposed takeover to Greenland, prompting investors to move into safe haven assets. Gold rose to 4.689 in announced, and silver rose $92 an ounce following Trump's plan of 10%. This for several countries. So basically, as soon as there's uncertainty, the investors go into invest in
safe assets,
because gold has intrinsic value, and it's the.
But is it not? Is it we're holding £1 billion worth of Venezuelan gold?
Apparently,
allegedly.
Well, it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, well, obviously
it's a lot more because and the apparently someone was saying that the Trump's turned around and said to the British that, look, now I'm in charge of Venezuela, that gold, I'm in charge of that gold. And apparently he sent some carriers to come and take that gold away.
What?
Yeah. So I don't know whether that's true or not.
Yeah.
You read silly things somewhere, don't you?
Yes.
UK inflation rises to 3.4%, first increase in 5 months. From 3.2% in November, marking first increase in 5 months, keeping price growth well above Bank of England's target of 2%. I don't think inflation is 3.4%. I personally feel it's a lot higher than that.
Why do you feel that it's a lot higher?
Just because of the price increases that we see and we face on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. It's not a 3% pay rise. Across the year, I think you're talking more like 10, 12% increase in goods.
Right.
And that has massive impacts on what we're able to do.
Okay. So inflation, I think people were a bit surprised at this. The rise was driven mainly by higher tobacco prices after duty increases and a new vape tax, alongside a sharp jump in airfares over the Christmas period and slightly higher food inflation. Some pressures were offset by weaker inflation in recreation and culture. Economists and the Bank of England expect the uptick to be temporary, with inflation forecast to ease towards target by spring as energy bills fall and markets still pricing in 2 interest cuts this year. So there is meant to be a interest review, and there will be in February by the Bank of England, and the initial suggestion was it would move down potentially from the 3 point whatever percent it is right now, and reduce by a quarter or a half a percent. The likelihood is that will now remain static, i.e. there'll be no change, but the forecast and economists, financial experts still predict that there will be a couple of further reductions. Let's see, because as Jalf has highlighted, it certainly feels, and looking at the price and the cost of goods that are being sold, there's been quite significant increases. We did talk previously about the increase in construction material. So building things in this country, Jalf, right? I was having this conversation with a few developers and some significant developers. Building something now in this country. So if I was building a new office block, I couldn't, it would cost me round about 30% more than it would have done 18 months ago. Right? 30% more. A third increase in the overall cost of building an office building. Right? Not just office, residential as well, but just looking at office, commercial space. But the rental values have not increased at all. So a building that cost me 350k 2 years ago to build, and I rented it out for £18.50 a square foot, would cost me now £500,000, and I wouldn't get anymore. So all of a sudden, it's like it's not viable, and the payback period is now, rather than ideally you're looking at a 10 to 15-year payback period on a development, right? So you build it. The ideal scenario is after 15 years, you build it, you paid for it, and it's a 15-year payback. Now you're looking at 30, 35 years.
Yeah, I think it's just outrageous. I mean, what can be done about that? Because it's a vicious cycle, isn't it, Ammar? Because that's just going to halt any type of developers. I know that.
So there's sadly, and I say sadly, but equally from a government perspective, there's a lot of grants out there for developers and buildings, and that's the only way. They need some subsidy to build. Is one thing. Now there's not enough grants to fund everyone, is there? And actually, it'll only be certain developers that are able to do that. So part of the challenge is, you're right, this vicious cycle. But what can be done is addressing some of the challenges, right? Going back to, well, VAT. Is one of the things, isn't it? Is that lever is, let's reduce VAT, right? Increases that, and we've talked about that previously, is one thing. The second, and arguably one of the most critical things, the reason why the cost of supply or cost of goods has increased so significantly is primarily what it costs to make those goods and those materials, right? And ship them. And within this country, the energy costs are one of the most expensive in the world. We have the most expensive energy in the whole of Europe.
Wow, it'll probably be the whole of the world, or if it's the whole of Europe.
It's not, is it?
Where's it going to be?
Well, there'll be certain, you call them third world countries, but I don't think you can use that term anymore, can you? Because our country here, there's people starving, there's people freezing, there's people can't afford to do stuff, there's people not getting the money. There's all of these challenges that exist in our country that were historically associated with third world countries. Wasn't there?
Yeah, it's tragic. It really is tragic. And it just shouldn't be the case when you have a country of generating such wealth and such big taxes. Why should there be any type of poverty at all?
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. And given how much is raised in taxes, we should have the best facilities, the best public services anywhere.
Imagine all that. You were responsibly, let's say that whatever our taxation is, imagine we were able to there's a pool of money. That's your level of taxation that you must pay, but you can pay it directly to these causes yourself. That'd be quite cool. I think the poverty would be wiped out straight away. Imagine if even from, if you've got like a million, you're paying a million quid or 2 million quid.
That's all of the people. I mean, I'll tell you what I find extraordinary, and we've had through ABC. Obviously, this is Asian Business Connections, sort of not-for-profit social enterprise radio show, is what it is. And I'll tell you what is particularly concerning are the number of people that are reaching out to ABC, business owners, investors, talking about how they're being persecuted and prosecuted by local authorities relating to planning and licensing and all of these issues, right? We've had several, and there tends to be it would appear to be a slightly different approach to the broader public, to other individuals. So, I'd hate to think, and this was raised a few years back, where Asian business owners were sadly being treated differently from non-Asian business owners. But I'll tell you what I find extraordinary is the fact that we're paying our taxes, our council taxes and everything else, and for people to be in a job to come and make business even harder.
Yeah.
So going back to your point there about who would you pay and who wouldn't you pay, well, you'd be saying, let's make it easier. Now, I was at a board meeting last night, and it was interesting to hear of the devolved plans around planning and planning authority and encouraging and addressing that. And the mayor's got some additional powers potentially around that as well. So, there are some things, but sorry, you were going to say, like, I mean, it's horrific to think that I'm paying somebody to come and cause me pain and suffering. How does that work?
Yeah, it's terrible. And I mean, if you think about Newcastle as a city, especially the city centre, if we just to focus on that for a minute, I appreciate that we've got anyone who do have trying their best to develop anyone with the city centre, because at the end of the day, the city centre is always the heartbeat of the city, isn't it? It's what your perception of any city would be based on their city centre and how modern it is. And
yeah, we've got 3 cities within our area. So Sunderland, you need to come over as well. Is what you need to do. You need, it's the point that I was going to make is you've got Newcastle, Sunderland, and Durham as cities. We're very fortunate, but you're right. The core city across the northeast is Newcastle, and you have got,
and then the city centre is obviously the hub. It's the hub of it. It's the heart of it. It's what kind of
brings everyone together.
Yeah, and it's the perception of people coming into the city when they leave the city. I think the city centre has to be the cutting edge of that city. Yeah. Have the shopping or the bars or the restaurants or big libraries and whatever facilities that you would have. It would be all in the city centre. Mm. But who in the city centre really cares for the well-being of the city centre? Because I feel should that be the city council? Because unfortunately, I don't feel that they've got the best. They're supposed to have the best interest of the city centre, but I just don't. I think they're like I said before, they're the ones that get in the way of progressing that city centre, making it into a better city, and the decisions made that makes it a poorer city. But then, should there not be a governing body above the city centre that holds the city centre and everyone else to account, because their agenda should be making the city better? And I don't feel that that's there.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem, because people are doing things that tick their boxes, but it's not for the best interest of the city or the city centre. And I think that I can feel, and something needs to happen on that front, because sadly, and it's not just me saying that, when I speak to other businesses, everyone is saying the same thing. And I don't know what the solution is, but something needs to be done on that.
I agree. I think I mean, sadly, what we're going to see is more turmoil, Jeff, because the elections are coming up. We're going to see a whole raft of reform councillors coming, and there's going to be further division, and then no decisions are ever going to get made effectively. And that's a real concern. In parallel to that, I just, I'm finding it harder and harder to just maintain. There was, I mean, it's extraordinary. Anyway, we're not going to get into the detail. I find it extraordinary that, going back to that point, because no one actually thinks of it like that, do they? No one thinks, I am paying someone to cause me pain. But fundamentally, that's what's happening, isn't it? If you're a business owner, right, you're just trying to do a job, you're trying to do the best job you can, and then sadly, you're being persecuted, prosecuted, or whatever it is. And actually, this is based on conversations that people are having with ABC, not directly with me, although some people have had those conversations. But I'm always making sure that we take a diplomatic approach. But it is important to address some of these challenges and issues because they then impact, ultimately, if these businesses end up closing. And I'm not suggesting for 1 second that if you're not doing your business properly, that, as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't be in business, right? If you can't operate your business in the right way, with the right intent to support your customers and the community, well then, I absolutely agree with, everything happening in the way that it should. Regulation, legislation is brilliant as long as it supports and it's done so for the right reasons. Whether it's used as a big stick to beat people up and, at the end of the day, impact livelihoods. I mean, we've done a great initiative, Jeff. Can you remember the license and education course that we've done, where we brought trading standards, we brought Sintons, we brought Alan Curry and the police, and we brought Stephen Savage together, and we educated all of the licensees, and there was a program there. That was like 10 years ago, whenever it was. But it was a brilliant initiative, and that's the type of thing we should be considering. How do you support people? Because if there is an educational need, good. Let's be proactive. Let's be preventative rather than, persecuting. And equally, it feels a bit unbalanced at times as well. So anyway, that's that. So, people, you can sit and complain all you want. Vote for Ammar, we'll go for. Is the thing. Anyway, this year I will be unable to stand for any political simply because of the role that I am hoping to take up in the not too distant future, which we'll talk about later on in March once the King approves it. Business topic of the week, Jalf. What's going on here is talking about all of the challenges and things like this. This year marks 10 years of SME Centre of Excellence. Owners, supporting business owners across the Northeast, founded by some guy called Ammar. We were built to make business support more practical, more accessible, and more grounded in the real pressures SMEs face. Over the decade, we have supported 17,000 businesses, connected SMEs, 300 service providers. Jeff, can you remember the campaign that I launched, Save Our SMEs, during COVID? Can you remember? There was we had this conversation, we were doing lots of promotion, people didn't know where to turn, what to do. We acted as a conduit. There was a big campaign that we done. Anyway, we've done that. And there's a whole range of other things that we've done, delivered programs, supported thousands of people, set up this place. We were looking at different places. We've done some things with the college. Can you remember we went and done some things at the college and whatever else. And yeah, it's an exciting time. It's a big landmark, for your business to last 10 years in this day and age. Equally, it's 20 years this year for Ammar.
It's amazing. I mean,
20 years of capturing, creating, delivering value is what we've done through Ammar, and 10 years for SME.
It's brilliant. It's massive achievements. It's like time flies, because I would have never have said that SME especially was 10 years old. I would have been like 3, 4 years old. My God.
And then this trade, we're talking about tariffs, we're talking about trade. What's the opportunity? Well, the Northeast's next decade, how can free ports unlock investment, innovation, and trade? If you're importing, exporting, whatever you're doing, reach out. We can help. The free port is a huge advantage, set up to defer VAT and duties, whilst you hold goods and be able to export goods to other free ports in a partnership way. We've spent some 10 months building up all of the structure and infrastructure, and we're super excited to be supporting lots of inward investment and internationalization. Curry Club, so it's happening during Race Equality Week on the 5th of February, and it's at Newcastle Building Society in Newcastle, so Jalf doesn't have an excuse, although I'm sure he will find one. It's on the 5th of February, and you're not going to be here.
I'm not going to be here.
See, I knew that even before he'd even said that. It's happening in the city centre, right at Monument, at Newcastle Building Society, one of our key partners, where we're going to talk about race equality and ensuring a fairer society. One of the things that we're doing within ABC and PI charity is helping improve the health, wealth, and happiness of everyone across the Northeast. And I'm really looking forward to supporting as many people as we can through the work of ABC and wider partners. It is very much around collaboration, and that's what's helped us sustain and do what we do. The awards are open. Really encouraging everyone to put a nomination in. They're a huge event. They're the landmark event. But before that, there's a series of events and awards. Jalf, next Thursday, we're launching the We Are Power movement at ISS Airview with an extra special curry club. So it'd be great if you could come along to that. There's some significant female founders, female leaders, power to everyone, not just females. But we equally need to recognise and support them as much as we can. What's happening on the football front then, Jalf? Where are we at?
Yeah, obviously, big win against PSV on Wednesday night. We've got one more game against PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, the current champions.
Where does that leave us?
Well, I think we're right now. If it stopped, I mean, critically, we need to try and get into the top 8. It means that you get into the last 16 if you're in the top 8. If you miss out on the top 8, the next from the 9th to the 24th position teams, they have a playoff. So the next 16 teams have to play to get into the last 16, which could be really tricky. So basically, if we get into the top 8, then we're guaranteed into the last 16. If not, we've got another match we need to play. So that's where we are. Either way, we're definitely going to be in the knockout phases, but we want to try and skip that phase and get into the last 16 automatically. So that's where we are. I mean, it's such a shame that some of the results went against us, and earlier on in the tournament, matches that we shouldn't have lost that we did against Marseille, and we should have been by Leverkusen. We would have already been up there, but it is what it is. So big week next week. So we play in Villa on Sunday. We're playing PSG away on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I think the Sunday after that, we're Anfield, Liverpool away.
Yeah.
And then I think we've got like 6 away games on the bounce, and twice we're going to be at Etihad against City. So there's a lot of matches coming thick and fast. A lot of away matches, which we've been very, 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 very poor on the road. But I think hopefully we can turn it around. If we can get Dan Burn and William Sula back as well from injury, that's going to help the boys a tad. I was hoping for possibly 1 or 2 signings. There's only like 5 days to go on the window, I think.
Do you think?
Well, there's a week to go on the window, Ammar. So the window closes, I think, on the 1st of Feb. And there's been speculation, but nothing concrete in terms of signings. But I think we need a couple of defenders, a couple of wing backs.
Well, I think, it'd be nice if Wissa and Waldemar and whatever else started playing a bit better as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look.
On the last weekend, it was horrific.
If you just think back to when Alexander Isak was there, and the presence that he used to hold, and what we used to feel, the anticipation we used to feel every time Alexander Isak used to get the ball.
Yeah, there was times
when he used to do those electric runs. We're like, oh my god!
Yeah.
Like, look, we're not. I never profess to be a football expert. I'm just a fan, but everyone can see certain things when you go to the matches as much as we do, and that is just the strikers. They're just not at the Isak level, and I think Isak is probably irreplaceable, and the replacements are just not as good, and we're suffering for that. Sadly for us, that's the reality, but it's also bad for Isak, who's obviously broken his leg. I think he's on the mend, and it's bad for Liverpool because they paid for a player just to show that, yeah, look, man, we'll do what we want. We're Liverpool. We're a big club in Newcastle. We can bully us, and they've gone after Isak when they really didn't need him because you got Ekitika. Why do you need 2 players that are so similar? You don't need it. So basically, so it's been a terrible transfer for everybody. We're suffering. Liverpool has suffered, and so has Isak. So, but I think we're not going to fix this until next season, until they really look at it and then find players that are going to suit our style and be the profile that we need. And I think, like you said, neither Waldemar or Wissa are quite hitting the mark.
They're not, but it's still bringing people to the city. Restaurant week, how was that?
Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah, good.
It was so busy, it was ridiculous. They did it a week before this year in anticipation of Champions League matches, because that obviously brings its own influx of people into the city. So they did it a week earlier, and I think it was good. It was surprising because I didn't expect it to be as busy as what it was. It was good.
Good. Well done. And then any big news, big events happening?
Nothing really, Ammar. I think sadly, any big news in the city is related to the football club, really. Other than that, there's odd bits of development here and there. The Stack has opened on Pilgrim Street, which is really it's developed that area a lot. They've done it so well, Ammar. You need to go and check it out if you haven't been in. It's just a shame from my perspective that the operators could have been so much cooler. It reminds us of a place in London called Kingly Court, right? Really quirky, and it's a really, really lovely space in the city.
Anyway, we're coming up to the end of our show. You've been listening to Ammar and
Jalf
live on our weekly radio show right here on Spice FM. We will be back next week with a review of January. Let's see what the world events take
on the hour every hour.